Wendy and Nick, thanks so much for that really interesting and quite exciting and motivating update about what's been going on in Wales. That's really great news. And now let's find out what's been happening in the northwest of England. And over to you, Ray Evans.
We've actually got a couple of members in Rhyl and Prestatyn, so I think we might be losing those unfortunately fairly soon. I'm Ray Evans. I'm coordinator for the Republic in the North West, which encompasses Cumbria, Cheshire, Greater Manchester, Merseyside and Lancashire. It's a big region, and we're going to do things about that, which I'll talk to you about. I've been asked really to speak to you today about what we've been doing in the North West since our formation. Not that we're doing it any better or any worse than anybody else, and I look forward to talking to some of the other regional coordinators afterwards to see how we can do things better. But hopefully give you a brief insight, so encourage you to form your own groups if you don't have one, or get involved in your own group if you do have one. Talk about a little bit about what we've done since our formation, some of the lessons we've learned, and some of the challenges I think we've got going forward. So we were formed basically late last year, along with a couple of other regional groups. Some of the first ones I think in a pub in Manchester. We set about that meeting. Basically, I agreed to act as coordinator. We set about setting up the Facebook page, which was quite important. Slow going to get started, but it's really moving now. So we've got Christmas out of the way, and really in the new year we decided that we would have our own leaflet. No disrespect to the London leaflet, but we thought we would have one to back up maybe some of the myths and the fallacies about the monarchy. The kind of things that we would expect to hear in the street. Perhaps we wanted to just quickly point people to facts rather than going into long discussions. So that out of the way, I sat down with a few people to get that leaflet designed, and we set out on a course of leafleting sessions in the streets of Liverpool and Manchester. Most of our population centres are in the south of the region, unfortunately, and so we have been focusing on that area. We're not big enough yet at the moment to cover the whole region, but we'll obviously try and do things about that. So we then, I think we've done maybe half a dozen of these leafleting sessions. Unlike some of the other groups, we don't have meetings just in their own, or we don't tend to have meetings just in their own right. We tend to tag meetings on the end of an event. And the reason for that, I think I've got most agreement on this from the fellow members, is that we've had enough talking to ourselves. We want to get out there and get a message across, and then have a discussion in the pub afterwards. But obviously, leafleting in January, February is not a particularly nice thing to do. So getting people out in the streets was an exercise to get over, on particularly cold days. But what I want to focus on here is that we shouldn't be too concerned about numbers. I think the main political parties would have struggled, if I'm honest, in January and February to get people out in those conditions. But what I want to focus on is how some small thing can lead to another, which may escalate. We did a leafleting session in Manchester. I think it was in February. There was only 3 or 4 of us out there, or maybe 5, I can't remember. As a result of that, obviously we shifted our leaflets. Something was posted on the main website. As a result of that, a journalist did a search because the Queen was due to come to Manchester on her Jubilee visit, and he managed to do some kind of opposing view. Did a search, found the main website and the fact that we'd been leafleting in Manchester, and as a result of that, we did an interview for Manchester Evening News, which was published in the week of the Queen's visit, which was a nice time. And obviously we attended the protest as well. We had Andy come up from London, helped us with the placards. Thanks very much, Andy, it was much appreciated. We got the police on our side, which was very important. Obviously that puts us in good stead going forward, not only with Greater Manchester Police, but the other counties as well, because now we can point to a police force that we've had good relationships with. Thanks so much. At the protest, the Queen's visit, we had a lot of interest from the press. You just turned up for the day and wanted an opposing view, so we did interviews out of that as well, with a lot of electronic newspapers, which I believe the youth of the country read. And we've had some follow-up events as well, follow-up interest from local media as well. Liverpool Echo contacted us just before the London event, and this little story shows perhaps that we're punching bigger than our weight, because the lady from Liverpool Echo wanted to speak to the Northwest press officer, which raised a smile. But yes, we're spending quite a bit of time at the moment on certainly young journalists, and perhaps journalists who haven't quite made their name for themselves yet. The point I'm making here is that all this stuff gets people talking, even the smallest event on the streets of Manchester. You know, it's a snowball effect. This, people see a banner or see a placard, and you know, even if they tell 1 in 5 or 1 in 10, then the message gets out there. We've also been doing some trade council talks as well and presentations. Some of the lessons learned. I'll focus on the leafleting because that's basically what we have been focusing on. There is a fear out there, there's no doubt about that. People are afraid of getting out on the streets. I believe there's several reasons for that. A lot of our members don't have a history of political activism. It's still a taboo subject. It's not widely, as we've already heard, it's not widely discussed in the press. And people feel they're in a minority. And we are in a minority. But we're an opposing minority with the other side as well. So we've got to overcome that and get people out on the streets. I had the same issues. I struggled myself. I haven't got a history of activism. And the thing for me was, what if people challenge? And they don't generally. Generally you'll find that people, the worst they'll do is generally hand a leaflet back to you. Which, if that's the worst that can happen, we haven't got a problem. But I think one of the important things is to know the facts inside out. And there's a very good document on the website, How to Win the Arguments. And I would suggest, if you aren't concerned about going out there on the streets, that you make yourself aware of it and get the issues off pat so you're well prepared. Timing of leafleting. We found that the timing of the day is very important. We found that if you leave it too late in the day, people have got shopping. They're not prepared to take a leaflet. They might come out to the pub. If you get people at 11 o'clock in the morning, they're generally more open, more docile. Also, wear the shirt. What we found is a lot of people come up and they'll see the shirt. We see that this is evidence that our message is getting across. I've got my own indicator in my mother, my elderly mother, who phones me every time that she sees Graham on the television. So I know our message is getting out there. She's got a personal Graham watch, I think. So yes, wear the shirt because it does attract people. We've had people come up to us and say, "I want one of those," and make it happen. I don't know if this is the case in the other part of the country, but there's a certain tribalism in. I don't know if it's prevalent, particularly in the northwest, but we've got to support each other. I've got people who won't come out of their own city. We're not big enough to have an event on every street corner at the moment. So people in Manchester have got to support the people in Leeds or Liverpool and vice versa. And we're going to have to be prepared to travel a little bit. It's nice that new members think we're so established that there's a group in every city. We're not there yet. Obviously we're going to do things about that, but we're not there yet. So we've got to support each other. And also that goes across region to region support. Just because I'm in the northwest, I'd like to lend a hand in the Yorkshire group and vice versa. We keep people in touch that way. So the message here is get involved. Don't wait for the coordinator to organise everything. If there's something that needs to be done, raise it. Get on the Facebook page, or get in contact with your coordinator and say, look, what about this for an idea? The chances are you volunteered for it. Okay, so be careful what you come up with. Leafleting as well. If there's nothing happening in your area, put it on Facebook. Say, look, I fancy doing some leafleting in this area. I'm free this weekend. Does anybody fancy joining me? I in my region could certainly make leaflets available. I'm sure other regions can too. So basically, I yearn for the day when the coordinator doesn't have to coordinate everything, that each of us can get involved. At the moment, if I don't organise it, it doesn't happen. So, get involved. Yeah, basically that was really all I had to say, because I know we're running out of time here, Graham. I'm sure you'd be happy if I stop short here. I hope what I've gone through is to give some idea of the kind of things we've been involved with in our region. Coming up, we're going to set up a new group for Cumbria, because it is a little bit distant from certainly where I'm living. And going forward, it's hopeful that we will get more regions involved. I've got 8 core members at the moment who really get involved in everything. We've got to improve on that, you know, and part of it's getting over this fear. And obviously that will come from more balanced media reporting as well. Once people realise that, you know, it's okay to question this. People will feel it's a catch-22, really. That's really all I had to say. Look forward to chatting to some of you later. And some of the questions you've got. So, okay, thanks very much.